Hello again. In this section, I want to briefly talk about practicing with the Om mantra. First, the Om mantra is once again, is a widely recognized mantra, and there's four major levels here of this. There is the A, the U, and the and the Turiya, which covers waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and Turiya. And there is our symbol again, the circle chart, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and Turiya. And those four major levels have three transition stages that are called Unmani, Aladani, and Samadhi. Note that there's three vertical dotted lines, and these are the transitions in this symbol. And so if you count them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things mapped out in the Om. And that's where we got the title of this thing. And what is a yogi trying to do? A yogi is trying to remember the four parts of the mantra, one after the other. This may seem a little bit difficult initially. It sounds like an intellectual exercise. But like anything else that we're trying to gain some mastery over, it might start feeling a little awkward, a little clumsy, but after a while it becomes comfortable. And so you literally memorize, so to speak, those four levels of the A, the U, the and the silence, the waking, dreaming, deep sleep, conscious, unconscious, active unconscious, latent unconscious, and consciousness, and gradually that sinks in. And remember the meanings of those. And again, you can come back, pause, and read these if you want. And note that these operate at the same levels here. So at the Vaishvanara level, the A level, this is about waking state of consciousness. It's about the conscious mind, and it's about the gross level of reality, this world out here. At the level of Tejasa, symbolized by the U, the U of Om, this has to do with the dreaming level of experience, the unconscious processing mind, and the subtle plane. At the level of Prajna, also these three are operating together. Deep sleep we experience at this level. We experience this is our subconscious, underneath the conscious and unconscious, hence sub. And this is the causal level. This is the place where is stored our deep habit patterns, our identities called samskaras. And Turiya, of course, is consciousness itself, which permeates all of these other levels and is the capital A-L of all. And so there it is again. And so here in this section here, note that when we first start doing this, again, it can feel very clumsy, very heavy, awkward, difficult to do this, but gradually over time the awareness sinks in for you. And so even though I can say Om in a matter of a second or two, that it does become more and more clear that there is a discernment between the A and the U part and the part and the silence part. And from time to time, some portion of that will come into your mind. With the A part, with that bursting forth of the A of Om, that first sound when your throat goes Om, or internally, mentally, most of the time you're not doing the Om out loud. What do you allow it to do? You allow that first part of the Om to remind you of the fact that you are in the waking state of the waking state, and that you're using the conscious mind, and that you are living in the gross realm of the universe. Those three you start to be aware of. And again, remember, this takes some time because it looks like a pretty heavy philosophical sort of intellectual study here, but it's not. It gradually becomes internalized. And when you're aware of the U, the middle part of the Om, what is it that you're training yourself to be aware of? To be aware of the dreaming level, of the active unconscious processing level of the mind, and of the subtle realm of the universe. Again, those three parallel one another. And from doing this, gradually many insights about the nature of reality will come to you. This is not about providing a list of those insights that you can then memorize and say, this theory of mantra says that this is our belief system. That's not it. Many insights come from attempting to be aware in this kind of way. When your awareness is on the M of Om, what to do? Cultivate and train awareness of the deep sleep state, which is formless. And this is the subconscious latent level of mind, and be aware of that. And the plane of reality is the causal realm. So gradually we become aware of the A, the U, and the M together, and they just pop into mind. That all of a sudden you're aware of the gross plane of reality, or you're aware of the inner processing of the unconscious mind. And when your awareness is on the silence after the Om, what happens? You become aware gradually of that consciousness which permeates those other three levels, and that permeates all of the subtle realm, and that also permeates the causal realm. And aware simply of awareness itself, and that I am consciousness way back here, so to speak, operating outward through my habit patterns and conditionings in the causal level, that operates outward through levels of mind that leads me to be expressing out here in the world. And so again, you just stick with these and play with them over a period of time. And in terms of intellectually understanding this, once again, you might want to pause here with some of these and look over them and read them. But most importantly, gently over time, allow the awarenesses to come. This takes a lot of practice, but it's very well worth it. And one of the ways this works is we start to notice that the latent impressions in that M level, the level, we see that they are there. They're often in latent form. They begin to stir. And when they stir, they arise into action internally. Often this is dreams, or it's something coming to wake in the mind that's coming forward, that's out here in the world. And then these stirrings come forward into the conscious mind, and we gradually observe them ourselves. As a completely separate subject, not completely separate, you may be familiar with the exploration of the four functions of mind, of manas, chitta, ahamkara, and buddhi, and I just clicked on that quickly to come over here. And so we gradually come to see more and more how these four functions of mind are operating in relation to the levels of Om mantra. And that we see that all these levels are permeated by consciousness. This is what we're trying to find ultimately anyway. We're trying to experience the capital S self, the true self, the center of our own consciousness, the Atman, or the Purusha. And so here, for example, in the waking state, there is consciousness. In dreaming, there is consciousness. In deep sleep, there is consciousness. In active thinking, there is consciousness. In the unconscious processing of mind, there is consciousness. In the latent storehouse, in the M level, the memory stage, there is consciousness. And as we all know, are somewhat familiar with the philosophy, the concept, the principle, that who we really are is consciousness itself. And we increasingly come to see this through meditation and contemplation on these levels of consciousness that are mapped out by the Om mantra. And that's what this is all about, ultimately. And so that's why Om is such a grandfather or grandmother throughout all of the yoga teachings. It keeps showing up over and over. There's a metaphor of a river that is a nice way to hold this principle. Think of a river. In a river, there is a river bed of stones and stuff like that. And this is the M level of the Om. That latent level is like the bed of a river. the flowing river itself is like the oo part of the thing of the river that's flowing by, and then there's the surface of the river. And so it's a very simple, easy to remember metaphor of Om. It's like, again, there's a bed of a river, there's a flowing current, and there's the surface of the river where you see the waves and the rapids where it's going over rocks and boulders. And so it's relatively easy to remember that. And then it gradually, once again, we become aware of the consciousness itself. And so here, we have another way of describing this, that there is subconscious, that's the riverbed, the unconscious processing, and then there is the conscious mind. And what are we trying to do? We are attempting to go beyond all of these three levels to experience the consciousness itself. And coming near the end of this section is this business of Tripura, as talked about in Tantra, in the subtler aspect of Tantra. Here's the Sri Yantra, a symbol of Tantra. And Tri means three, Pura means city. And so Tripura is that consciousness, the one who lives or dwells in the three cities. And there are the three cities once again: the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, the Vaishnava, the Tejasa, the Prajna, and the Turiya, or the Tripura. That consciousness, what comes outward through these three, is called Tripura. And this is the way that this is viewed through Tantra. And okay, so this section had something to do, a brief summary of practicing Om and just some ideas about what that's about, practicing the Om mantra. You might want to go through this again and click pause and read what it says, but most importantly is practice the mantra in contemplation and meditation. Okay? Thank you one more time for visiting. I hope you're enjoying this. I know that when we start looking at it at this level, it can seem a little bit heavy, but be patient with it. That's all. It's a tremendously useful practice. It's very, very much right at the heart of what yoga is all about in the traditional sense of yoga. So be patient. People spend years, many years, contemplating and meditating on Om. And so please be very, very patient with yourself and enjoy the journey. It all leads inward to that sort of unbelievable, undescribable silence. Okay? Thank you again for visiting. I hope you're enjoying this. Bye-bye. See you next time. We'll start to go through the actual 7 levels that is the theme of this series. We'll go through them one at a time. So enjoy. Bye-bye.